Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron. I hope you're having a great day or night in Jesus. Years ago, I was wanting to get a doctorate in archaeology and philosophy. It was one endorsed by, I think, the University of Wales. This would have been 15 years ago or so. So I took some classes. I never did it, completed it. It was like online concentration classes. I enjoyed going to those concentration classes and things. So in studying philosophy, I really got into philosophy for a long time, was Thales of Miletus. He was always somebody who fascinated me because he's considered to be the first philosopher. And this would be in the Grecian tradition, so-called Western tradition. You know, the Sumerians were really smart. The Egyptians were really smart. The Babylonians are doing trigonometry. You know, the Egyptians are building pyramids. There was a lot of brilliance there. The Sumerians, just I mentioned already, were incredibly smart. The Akkadians. And so I don't know how true it is that Thales was like the first philosopher. Even when you read the Code of Hammurabi, even though it's an organizational, cultural, civilizational code, it does seem like it has some philosophical aspects to it. And you even have some fictitious writings in the Epic of Gilgamesh and various things, Egyptian legends and that type thing. But maybe he was, but he was also a scientist. Like, he was the first guy, to my knowledge, that ever predicted an eclipse. Now, there's eclipses in Scripture, but Thales, he predicted the eclipse. I was watching a comedian not long ago, and he was talking about, could you imagine being the first guy to predict an eclipse? It would give you an immense amount of power. Like, on this day, the sun's going to be darkened, and everybody could say, you're crazy. And when the sun darkened, they'd be like, what kind of guy are you? You know, and it was, you know, from studying Thales and other things that I was totally shocked that actually science is an off branch of philosophy if you study it from a historical perspective. So like Aristotle, who gave us categories and that type thing, would have been a philosopher and a scientist. Plato had some of that as well, even though most of his writings are just regurgitating the teachings of Socrates. But like Empedocles and Anaxagoras and Anaximenes and these others, Democritus, they combined philosophy and science quite a bit. So Thales of Miletus, somebody you might find interesting. I mean, a lot of times, and I know the limitations of this, but so you hear about somebody like Thales of Miletus, you just get out the Wikipedia page, and, you know, in 5 minutes you can get a pretty good Cliff Notes version of the guy's life. But if you just punch in Thales of Miletus, a lot of times like Stanford University or somebody's going to have maybe some of his writings, or if he had any writings, I'm not sure if he does, extant or not. But, you know, things like that, if you care to read, I always prefer to read things in the first person, because I've been burnt so much with that. Somebody will tell me this person believes this, that, and the other, and I'm like, you know. So then when I read their actual writings, I'm like, they didn't believe that at all. It was either agenda-driven or misunderstanding. So it's always best to go into first-person resources. But Thales of Miletus, pretty interesting guy from history. And, you know, he was lost, evidently, according to Ephesians 2. God bless. We love you. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.